storygoers, and welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Cartridge, the video game storytelling podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Eric Penrod.
And I'm your other co-host, Ryan Bauer.
Ryan, we had a fantastic, I can't talk anymore. It's Sunday afternoon. My brain is like fried still, which isn't great for the work week coming up, but whatever. We had a great time yesterday. We saw some nice outdoor films, which was interesting. Just watching skiing and things I could never possibly do in a lifetime. But it was a lot of fun. But anyway, Ryan, how are you? And what have you been playing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a wonderful weekend of hanging out and doing fun things. It was fun playing some Mario Kart, and then getting some delicious foods and drinks, and watching a bunch of silly people go down a mountain. Fun things. All fun things.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah. As far as what I'm playing, bits and bobs here and there. We're coming up to our last week. Next week is the last week of the season of Destiny, so finished up all the things that need to be finished in preparation for next season. Very excited. On the 23rd, there's a big showcase where they're going to show the future of Destiny, and they'll talk about what's coming next. Yeah, exactly. All the stuff that's coming down the pipeline over at Bungie. Finished V-Rising. Did I talk about that? Did I say that last time? We officially finished V-Rising. Beat the last boss.
Wow.
It was a time. By the end, it's one of those experiences where by the end we were kind of all done. We were ready to move on with the game.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried it and died, and we're like, okay, you know what? We're just gonna teleport ourselves back. My friend Dave had admin commands. He just teleports us back. We're like, this is a bunch of bullshit. We're just gonna do it again because it gets really grindy at the end, and so much of your progression is locked behind like catching certain fish or like the RNG of certain things that I know that they will fix. It's still a really fun and wonderful game, but we beat the last boss. Done with it. Moving on to the next thing, but it was a fun, wonderful time.
Is another game is set for you guys now?
Yeah, so I think we were going to do Core Keeper, that kind of Stardew Valley, Terraria, top-down game, where you're like underground and like building a base and you fight bosses and there's like armor and classes and stuff. We were going to jump to that, but we held off because Dave started playing Satisfactory and is now addicted to Satisfactory, where he thinks he, like me, oftentimes spends too much time thinking about like, okay, if I have one iron mine here that produces 60 iron a second, which then I can convert into 60 iron plates a second, which then brains taken up, far too much of our brains taken up by the logic of that. So we were probably going to jump into that, and then Call to the Lamb, which I've been playing, and I think you've been playing as well. On Friday I got home from work, I saw that it was out, and I bought it, and I've been playing it on off all weekend, and it's a very fun time.
You got me into the cult of the lamb.
Yeah, the cult of the cult. Yeah, exactly.
Cult of the cult. Yeah.
Welcome. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. How are you, and what have you been playing?
I'm good. So we like we said, we went to this outdoor film fest, and it was at a hard seltzer joint. And so I had a little too much hard seltzer, which Ryan, by the way, Ryan graciously brought these. Is it barbecue?
Habanero barbecue almonds.
Habanero,
yes.
Yeah. And they're very good, and I ate way too many. I also drank too much, but I think that the almonds saved me from that. But I will say there was a point though. So we're watching this outdoor film festival documentary, and it was your wife, right, and my girlfriend with us, right, as we're watching this, and my girlfriend and I drank too much. Not like crazy amounts, we're like blistered, blistered or blasted, whatever. Yeah, I obviously don't drink very much. Say. But we got to the point where in this movie, one of the people, their last name is McNutt, and it was so hard not to laugh. And thankfully they got like super hardcore like music as they're skiing down these slopes, so it was really loud, so like we can like kind of muffle the laughter there, but there would be like some silent parts, and it was hard not to. The laughing was contagious. So it was McNutt of all the names to put on a screen in front of drunk people,
like in flaming letters appearing on the screen. Yeah, exactly.
And they got to a point where
off a mountain.
And then they got to a point where McNutt goes, "Hey, I almost didn't make it last season." And we're like, oh crap, we're making fun of this dude for like 25 minutes and he almost died. I was like, this is awful. And then we continued to laugh, not at him, just more
Yeah.
Not with him, not at him, but just
It's a silly name.
yeah.
He's got a silly
because
name.
of him.
Yeah.
He got a silly name. Yeah. So anyway, I'm 31. Anyway, this is the longest list of games I've had to bring to the table for games I've played. This is like amazing. So I don't know if I said this already. I think I said that I was playing it, but I beat Final Fantasy VII Remake. Have I said that?
Wow. I don't know if you've said you've beaten it. I remember you playing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will say, looking back, I'm very happy I beat it. And I can't say why, but I'm very happy. It was just not what I was anticipating.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. And then I went down the rabbit hole of what the heck's going on. So I'm very excited. And now I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission, I think, or I don't know. It's some DLC thing. And it has everyone's favorite Final Fantasy VII ninja. The only one really that we know, Yuffie, is the character. I don't know if you know Ryan. She has a giant shuriken, and so that whole thing. I think it's to answer some more questions. So I'm very excited to play that. Of course, also Mario Kart 8's newest track just came out. We played a set yesterday with Waluigi Pinball and Calamari Desert, which they're so good. I love. If you're a fan of the N64 games, I can see why some people may not enjoy Calamari Desert, but I love what they've done with it. I think that what they did and implemented there, it just made it so good. As well as the fact that you can go back now and play the original ones on the Switch if you want to. So if you don't like it, you just go back and play the old ones. It's just, I think it's great. I love that they didn't just put a new fresh coat of paint on it. They changed it, made it nicer. Very cool. So I also have been back in Hades. I went full force. Once I beat Final Fantasy VII, I need a palate cleanser, and that's been Hades.
Yeah.
So I did it on Hell mode. And I realized it was not as easy to get through it as I thought it was going to be. When it's not on Hell mode, I can, first couple tries I can probably beat the game. But Hell mode really kicks my butt hard. It took me, I think 20 I think it was 18 tries to finally beat the first time. So, but it's been great. And then, sorry, 2 more, and then we're done.
No, please. I want to hear about them all.
Started Stray today.
Oh, good.
With my girlfriend.
Yeah, you guys are gonna love it. I think.
I already feel this emotional attachment to this cat because I love animals so much, a little too much maybe.
Yeah.
And so, spoiler, it's in the very beginning of the game. So, and if you've seen any trailer, I think you've seen this, but spoiler, you're a stray cat who's been lost from their pack, of other stray cats. In the moment the cat falls into this dark pit, it broke my heart. My heart it broke. It broke. And my girlfriend goes, "What's the point of this game?" And I was like, "Lindsay, we have to save this cat and get it back to its pack." I'm like, "What are you talking about?
Are you not understanding?"
Yeah. What do you not understand about this game already? As someone who doesn't play games that much. So I'm just jumping down her throat. Not really though. Not really. I will ask though, have you gotten far into Stray?
So I haven't played very much of it at all. Melia's just about to go into the second area. She's beaten the first area and is going to the second area. But I don't know what that means in the course of the game. But yeah, she's probably either a third or half the way through, I would say.
I was gonna say because there's I don't want to say what happens, but there's a part in the game early on where it seems like you're getting hurt, and I don't know if the cat can actually die or not. Do you know if the cat can...
So, I mean, you don't die. It just screen goes black and you respawn. Yeah.
It's just sad. I was like, ugh, I really hope they don't actually kill this cat. This is way too messed up.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a narrative. Again, I don't know if there's a narrative of what happens when those things get you, what actually happens or not. But the screen just fades to black and you boot back.
My girlfriend was playing this part where we were in danger. The cat was in danger. In order to not be in, I'm trying to be very cryptic here and not spoil anything.
Yeah.
In order not to be danger, you have to press the circle button on the PlayStation to get out of danger. So she's running. She goes, "You need to press the circle while I run." So I'm pressing the circle and she's running. It was just great teamwork. So it works very well. I think so far so good. If anyone's out there with a significant other that they would like to play a game with, I think Stray is very good so far.
Yeah,
so
it's good. It's good.
Beautiful, really pretty, really
for being maybe 2 folks, beautiful.
Wow, really?
Yeah, the animations are amazing. The world is beautiful. Mm-hmm. The narrative and the characters you meet later on, I think you're gonna really love it. It does a really good job of world building in this really amazing way where the spaces aren't huge, but they're so detailed and interesting. And it's just fun to boop around as a cat, as not a cat person. It's just fun to boop around as a cat. It's a fun time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What more do you want?
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah. Especially orange cats. Orange cats are just very nice.
Little
I
tabby,
mean, you're
yeah.
allergic, so
It's okay.
I sympathize. It cannot be easy. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
No, but
It's my burden.
and then, and then last but not least, I become a cult of the Lamb. As I said before, I literally was playing maybe like an hour ago, and I definitely see the roguelike obviously aspects of this game, and I love that you get to design your own little village. It's very cute, very disturbing. And I'm hoping weirdly enough that's a quick time. I think I'm ready to kind of go through Cult of the Lamb, get back through Hades, and get back to Final Fantasy VII in a weird way, and then maybe eventually start Cyberpunk, which will probably never happen. Yeah. So we will see. We will see if that ever does happen. But anyway, Storygoers, I hope that you're doing well. We would love if you want to email us your thoughts, feelings, or perspectives to talesfromthecartridge@gmail.com. All of the E's are 3s. And if you do, we will happily send you a free Tales from the Cartridge sticker as a thank you with a little note that says, something like, thanks for sharing your thoughts, feelings, and or perspectives. We appreciate it. Here's a sticker. But much more friendlier. Obviously, I was trying to throw things on the spot there. So, but for this episode today is a memory card. And this memory card is where we're going to ask Ryan about games and stories that he loves and that are important to him. So there's a series of questions, and our guest is obviously Ryan. So we're gonna ask him more about what these games are. If there's anything specific, what's special to them about him, or special to him about these games. And of course, like the goal of this is always to use video games as a medium, right? And share and learn more about each other, which is kind of the point of Tales. So which is really cool. So Ryan, are you ready? We're gonna just totally grill you on your favorite games.
I'm ready to dive in. And I do want to say I intended the memory card with me to be the second one we did, we do you and we do me, but as you will find out in this episode, it was really hard for me to kind of really lock down for a variety of reasons, one game or narrative that's most important to me, but we can get more into it because but yeah, so I'm excited. I'm ready to be grilled. I'm ready to rip myself open and share all the things in a very Cult of the Lamb gruesome way.
I was gonna say
that. Yeah,
it's a very Cult of the Lamb.
yeah.
All right, Ryan. First question. We're gonna add some cool sound effect.
Exactly.
Well, Ryan, what is your personal story, your history with video games?
Yeah, what a great question, Eric. I'm so glad you asked.
I know. I think you wrote it.
It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. Games have always been kind of a part of my personal scheme of how I view myself. Is I'm a person who enjoys video games. As for as long as I remember, that's kind of been one of the ways I identify myself. One of the reasons being I'm not super into sports. I'm not super in a lot of the things that are traditional masculine things. Who people who identify as male often use to talk to each other and connect. So video games have been kind of that for me, and because of that, a lot of my friendships that I have are built around our love of games and things like that. But as far as where I started and how I got to where I am now, with all things of my life, a lot of my early childhood, I cannot remember much of it. It's a little bit fuzzy. It's a little bit hazy. There was just a lot of stuff going on with we moved a lot for financial reasons. And it was just a really messy, wild time that because of that, I don't have a super clear memory of it. And there, no part of my childhood was actively, I was never really in any real danger, as far as I'm aware, or anything like that. I mean, everyone's, personal histories and their childhoods are in perspective of themselves. I don't know, comparing it to somebody else's is super fair, but for me, it was intense, and it was a lot. And so a lot of my early memories, it's really hard for me to think about. And then once you get into the mid 2000s, when I was in high school, I had lived at a house for the longest I've ever lived at a house in my life, which was 4 years or 3 years. And I had finally had a group of friends, you guys in high school were my first real proper group of friends, real people who understood me and I could talk about things I liked with and I could connect with. There were others in my life here and there, but again, because we moved so much, it was really hard. And I had some of these same friends in middle school, but in 8th grade, my family moved to Florida for a year. So like that last year of middle school, like I didn't have anybody I knew, and I was in a place I didn't really enjoy, and I was like a grumpy teenager about it. And I just mostly like stayed in my room and played games on my laptop and my computer and like stuff like that, because it was still really there was online games at that point, but not in the meaningful way that was accessible to a kid or a young adult. It wasn't until like high school where that became more prevalent on that kind of like GameCube and later era. But so like the first video games I've ever played was my grandparents had a lake house up in the Finger Lakes, and they had a SNES, or no, a Super Nintendo. No, not a Super Nintendo, just a Nintendo, an NES, in the guest cabin that was behind their house. And I would just spend hours and hours playing Duck Hunt and Mario and whatever other games they had on there that I just had access to. And then, you know, as I got a little bit older, and like my first game system I ever had in my house, I think was the Sega Genesis, and just had a bunch of games on there that I really enjoyed and played. And then as I got a little bit older into like late elementary school and middle school, I had a PlayStation 1. And we had like a house computer for the whole house. It wasn't my computer. It was the family computer, I guess would be what it was called.
Very 90s.
Yeah, very 90s. It was like the computer that you would try to play RuneScape on, but like you didn't have internet because it was dial-up, and then you couldn't. Like that was my experience. So like there was a lot of like web gaming, like Flash games that I played. And then like we've talked about like the Pajama Sams. And then there's a couple other games that like my parents picked up at like a garage sale, or my grandparents picked up at a garage sale for me that I just had, that were just like absolute garbage. Then there's some stuff like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, or some other really good games, including like some weird like real-time strategy games, like some early ones that I probably played in middle school and didn't really understand anything that was going on. And this one game that is like forever burned into my memory because I played it so much with my cousin Tyler, but I don't know if anybody else has heard of it, called like Lego Rock Raiders, which is you are a group of Lego people digging underground, and you have to like dig caves and then reinforce the caves, and you have like a little base, and you have to like gather crystals. It was a whole thing. We played so much of that game. That was very, very fun. And then like as long as with my friends, me and my cousins, there were three of us, we all were really into games. My cousin Aaron he was like the Nintendo kid. He had the N64, he had the GameCube, he played all of those things. And then my cousin Tyler, he was more into like the Xbox RPG stuff. And I kind of like fell in the middle. Like I had a PlayStation and I liked a little bit of both things. I never really got engaged with the Xbox much. I got a GameCube because I saw Aaron, my other cousin, more than I saw Tyler. And so like games were always a part of kind of every family get together. Every friend gathering was all of it was the focal point was games. Anytime we would get together, people would come over to my house for different events. It was to play games. We went on a family trip to Outer Banks, and we all got in trouble because my cousin Aaron brought his GameCube, and we spent the entire vacation playing Time Crisis. Time Splitters 2. Time Splitters 2. Time Splitters 2. Just the entire time playing Time Splitters 2, and our parents and grandparents got really upset with us because like we didn't go to the beach at all. We didn't go outside at all. We just like sat in an air conditioned room and played Time Splitters 2 for hours and hours on end until we got in trouble. So games have kind of always been a part of that, and I think one of the reasons I'm most drawn to them, and I think in media in general, the things I'm most drawn to is being able to like escapism, right? I'm able to like go be a part of a different world. I'm able to not think about the things that I'm stressed or anxious about or worried about in my life, and go do other things and have control in those worlds, be able to make decisions in a way that in my own personal life I just didn't. I wasn't able to make the choices of what was around me. And like I was especially drawn to, we kind of got into this a little bit when Haney was went on and talking about what he was excited about. I was the most drawn to, like the narrative I was most drawn to when I was younger is like the chosen one narrative, like the special boy narrative, like the one special person who no one knew he had magical powers, and if you just, you know what I mean, like that narrative, like and again, that's why I was so drawn to Star Wars and those other things as a kid, is because like that I always wanted that to be me, right? I always wanted to be like, life is really rough, and it's all in perspective. Like I had a house, I, you know, for the most part, like had a healthy and safe childhood, but there is still always a part of me that wanted, like, that thought like, man, this isn't what I want to be doing. I'm meant to like go out and like save the world or like be a hero, and that's like was like something that I always was really attracted to and interested in, and even till today, it's something that when I play games, I'm thinking about and wanting to do, and all that. But yeah, that's kind of a long circle like general relationship with games. I've always played them. I've always used them for escapism, and it's kind of how I self-regulate now in some ways. Like if I'm really stressed out or really anxious, I will have certain games that I will go to play to just not really think about, which maybe isn't always the most healthy, but it's what I've always done. Like it's my coping mechanism, is like I don't think about whatever is making me anxious, and I do something. I play a game, or I do something where I feel productive in that experience, even if it isn't actually productive in the world. It feels productive. And especially as I've gotten older, and as we've talked about, like games where I'm like creating systems and getting things done, or building beautiful things, or creating things, are, as I've gotten older, what I'm most interested in. Because it's something that I've come to really enjoy, along with, you know, narratives and stories and all that kind of stuff. I think like stories are an important part of who I am, and video games are the main way I engaged with stories for the most of my life. As I've gotten older, I've gotten into like D&D and other like group storytelling experiences that are meaningful, but like none of them have been as formative as video games have been in like how I see the world and the schemas that I formed about what is good and what is right and how things should be. A lot of that comes from like the narratives told through games and media.
Yeah, that makes total sense, actually. And like, I don't know, I feel very much in line with you. I was very similar to you, right? I was like, I love the chosen one narrative. Like that felt very attuned to me as well. Like I should be doing something to help someone, or choose. Yeah, so I feel like it's probably something that we've related on before, right? And like then I was thinking about too about what you just said about like the, you know, coping with your feelings through video games. But as someone who teaches coping skills to a lot of people and through like therapy, like I think video games are fantastic, right? Like, and I was like I tell everybody, like hopefully this will make sense, right? We talk a lot about how like selfishness is this like inherently negative view, right? If someone is selfish, then immediately you kind of feel like they're negative. But the selfishness in itself is not a negative thing. You have to be mindful about yourself and what your needs are, and it has to come first in order for you to be able to help other people down the line, right? And there's nothing wrong with you having to come first for yourself, so long as it's not too much. And how too much of anything is a negative thing. You're too selfish, and yes, that becomes a negative thing. So going back to coping skills, like when I work with little ones, I kind of have to tiptoe around video games as a coping skill, because that become like, you know, because it's a struggle to manage emotions sometimes as a young one, like to use video games, which can make you even more upset, is like a rough road. But someone, you know, that it has a good emotional handle on themselves, that can understand why video games are good or not good depending on the game, to regulate yourself is huge. So my point is this: I think it's fantastic that you use video games as a coping skill. I think it's a great thing, personally, as someone like you who also does that, right? Like I mean, I could easily throw on Hades and be so happy, like, and just, you know, and just kind of go through it. Whereas like, I know the difference between playing Hades, where I know I can like get some like frustration out, or just kind of be mindless for an hour and it's great, or like say playing like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is a great game, but there are moments where it's like, oh my god, like I'm going to lose my mind if I have to slow walk through one more scene. I'm going to lose it, and that's not the game I need to be coping with my emotions at that point. You know what I mean? So I think it takes like a lot of emotional maturity. So I'm trying to say, anyway, I think it's a great thing. Ryan, what game or games, like game stories, had like the biggest impact in your life growing up?
Yeah, this is the big question. This is the one that I've kind of struggled with to try to lock one thing down. That I've struggled to like lock down and think of, because of both my hazy memory of my younger years, and a lot of the games that I've played, because a lot of times the games I'm using is about control, a strong narrative, oftentimes you're giving up some control for the purpose of telling or hearing a story. That being said, there are some games that I've played throughout the years that have like a really meaningful impact in some way, or I think about them, or they like break through that haze of my childhood that I really distinctly remember. Not exactly the whole entire experience, but how I felt during that experience and how meaningful that experience was. So like one of the first, like, again, time is weird. I don't know where all these fit in like when I played them versus the meaningfulness of them. And like when I played them age-wise, and that was an age to like internalize and understand what the narrative was and be excited by it. So like an example would be like Tales of Symphonia. I'm not a huge JRPG person. Tales of Symphonia is a JRPG from the GameCube era. It's in the Tales thing. It's the only Tales game I have played. I don't even know why I ended up buying it. It must have been like I rented it and really loved it or something, because there's nothing else at Blockbuster or at Game Crazy? Game Crazy, yeah, the Game Crazy / Game Family Video, or not, it wasn't even Family Video.
Hollywood Video, yes, exactly.
Oh
man, I miss it so much.
Because those games aren't usually my jam, but I remember that game being a game where it was like one of the first games that had like emotionally impactful narratives where, and again, I do not remember the story beats at all. They're totally gone, but I remember like caring about the things that were happening. And these characters felt like real people in how they were engaging in interacting with the story. And like there were characters who you cared about who had to like sacrifice themselves to save other people. And there's characters who, you know, were kind of, it had all the tropes of a JRPG, but it was one of the first and only JRPGs I've played that I really in like that again breaks through that haze. So I really clearly remember parts of that game where I don't remember much else. I broke this down by like systems. So like GameCube, Tales of Symphonia, Wind Waker was the first like Legend of Zelda game that I was like really fell in love with and played to no end. Because I didn't have an N64, I watched my cousin beat, you know, Majora's Mask and Wind Waker, but I never really engaged with them myself. And Wind Waker was the first game I played in that series that like is what made me love that series so much. I played like the Game Boy Advance, like Minish Cap, and those games as well. I don't know where that would have came after actually Wind Waker anyway, but because Minish Cap was like a sequel or something. Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced.
It did come out after. I can't remember if it's connected or not. I don't.
It may not be. Either way, that game was like a game that again had a really big emotional impact. The narrative was really interesting, and like that. The story was so interesting, engaging that I really remember love. The Fire Emblem series, I played a ton of Fire Emblem. I really loved Fire Emblem. Golden Sun, I don't know if you remember Golden Sun. It's like an old Game Boy RPG. Just a very good game that I remember playing a lot. Again, kind of like a JRPG, but I don't remember much else other than like talking with my cousin a lot about it. And then the PlayStation 2, this is kind of when we get into the mid to late 2000s, where I really start to remember and think about...
Sorry, I said meat. I don't know why. I'm sorry. The meat and potatoes thing. I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fair. That's when I like really started to engage, like Shadow of the Colossus, Kingdom Hearts, Borderlands, BioShock, like the mid to late 2000s, where I was like, I think junior year of high school, I don't know about you, Eric, but junior year of high school is like the first year of my life where I was like, you know what? I'm a pretty cool person. This is going pretty well.
I never thought that in high school, but I'm glad you did.
I think it's because I like started exercising junior year of high school for the first time. And like I spent that summer just kind of like goofing off with our old friend Dan, who knows what he's up to in the world these days. But like junior year of high school, I was feeling pretty good. And senior year was okay, and then college, it all fell apart again. But like in that one brief moment, things were bright and wonderful.
Well, I remember you two. Like I felt like you like jumped leaps and bounds. You suddenly got a girlfriend.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
you were
yeah.
very, very. Not that you weren't popular before, but you were very popular. Like everyone just like loved you. I felt like
Sure.
like popular kid, didn't really matter. Like everyone loved Brian Bauer. Like no one had anything negative to say about you. Not rightfully so, because you didn't do anything to earn any negative praise.
Yeah.
But like I can totally see why you felt that way. I can see that.
Yeah, it was partially it was because like again I spent a lot of time with somebody who was also very well liked and popular. I think that helped. But yeah, it was a time where like I felt I was feeling pretty good about myself and the world in some ways, and at the same time like there's a lot of really good games out. Shadow of the Colossus, Kingdom Hearts, Borderlands, the first Borderlands, then Borderlands 2 in college. I didn't play a lot of this stuff, but and then you get to freshman year of college. This is so rambly.
That's good. This is memory card. It's
memory card. That's right. We're getting to know each other through video games. And then freshman year of college, I went to college and I got a single, which I do not advise people to do your freshman year, your first semester of college, because what it means is if you're a person who does not prefer to go out of your way to like meet people and talk to people, it's really easy just to go back to your room and not talk to anybody during the day. So that's what I did my freshman year of college. I only made like maybe one or two. I mean, I have some really good friends from college, but most of them like I didn't meet until after college. Like our friend Dave, I went to college with, but when I was there, we didn't really talk to each other at all. I have one good friend from college, and he was my roommate. Josh, cool guy, and Sean, I guess. But again, Sean is from our hometown, so I knew him from that. But like, I didn't have a whole lot of friends that first year. So what I ended up doing is I got really into YouTube in like 2010 because that was when like YouTube was blowing up. 2010 That's YouTube huge. Was so hot, and Minecraft came out in 2009, and I played it like a little bit. My friend Tyler Galpin, friend from high school, like showed me Minecraft in like 2009, and it was like just coming out, and it was so weird and interesting, and like nothing I've ever played before. And then when I got to freshman year of college, I was like watching YouTubers who played Minecraft, and there was this one YouTuber called like Lepter1 or something like that, and he was like, "Hey guys, join my server and in Minecraft." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great. I'm gonna go play on this Minecraft server." So I did, and I played on this Minecraft server for like a good chunk of my early college years. And I don't even know, Eric, if you know a whole lot about all this, but and I played a ton. I ended up becoming an admin on his server, and became really close with it was before Discord, so it was what did we even use to talk to each other? I don't even remember. Maybe we used Steam, but it was like I had this whole community of other people I played Minecraft with. And we would get on like every night and like fly around and like build cool stuff and do all kinds of interesting things. And then a couple of them like I became fairly close with throughout college, and we played some games together. But I played so much Minecraft as like just a solitary experience, and then as like this community experience where I didn't have like I had friends who I played games with, but it was a time where I just wasn't feeling. Oftentimes, if I'm feeling like not happy with what's going on in the world or with my life, I become like I like shut everybody off and just kind of become really insular and just kind of do my own thing out of habit. I'm assuming, again, we don't have to get into it, but I'm assuming it has to do with like when I was younger, I would have to cut people off, and that's like that's what I do when things are difficult. I just cut everybody off and just kind of go into myself, because that was when I was younger, that's all I had. So that's what I did, in part of college, in and out. But I ended up finding this like really great community of people. I don't talk to any of them anymore, but they're all like some of my friends on Steam, and I'll see what they're up to. And, what a wild time. But yeah, that was a huge part of like getting me through some of that really tough college few years. And then I think part of it, especially freshman year.
I feel bad because like we had originally planned to room together.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and because I got the bill for the college, I couldn't afford it. I didn't have enough tuition because my mother and my stepfather made too much money, so I couldn't afford to stay at the campus. So I had to drive 45 minutes every day to school.
Yeah,
which like really sucked, and I feel bad because then you were stuck in a single. And and that sucked.
To be honest, like that's not something I don't remember. I remember us talking about that, but I don't remember feeling any kind of like frustration or I totally like. There's no part of me that that thinks about that and like, man, if it wasn't for Eric, not, you know what I mean? That isn't something that even has crossed my mind. Yeah, and well, you're like a very empathetic and kind person. So, but yeah, that's really interesting that I didn't even put that together. That was. Maybe a part of that.
I remember having to tell you, and I remember, at least I think I do. Maybe it's a fabricated memory, but I remember telling you in like a text. I think. Yeah. I feel like I couldn't even tell you in person. I felt so bad.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah. I remember coming to visit a few times.
Yeah, you came to visit quite a few times, and like we eventually got to a point where like we would play a bunch of games together online. Whether it was, Borderlands or Red Dead Redemption or The Last of Us or Uncharted online multiplayer. Like there was so many like things that we played together, and I think it's hard to separate or to think about the fact that we have like this really. We're all old now, so it's a little bit harder now. But we like I just mean like we have this really great active group of friends who all play games together or used to play games together. Like every single day, multiple hours a day. And before we had that like community, it was like this like desperate group of people kind of scattered to the wind. And like it was really great eventually to all come together and have this like great group of friends who we could play games with. But yeah, for a really long time, it was really just you and me playing games together. And I think that really helped me come out of and work through that kind of like insular period. Of college, and then eventually like I got a roommate and things were okay, but there still wasn't that same connection. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have had this where you have a really good close group of friends in high school and then they all scatter, right? And what does the world look like? And that's like a really common coming of age thing. But yeah, that so like college, because YouTube was so big too, I watched a lot of games played. Like I watched a lot of playthroughs. I got really into like that YouTube video game world, like most folks did in the 2010s. But yeah, Minecraft was a huge part of that. Borderlands and Red Dead, and I mean, we really bonded over those narrative games and over those stories in a way that like that's something I had in high school, and we had in high school. We would talk about games all the time. Once we got to college, the group got smaller.
It did, and what's interesting now that you're saying this, Ryan, like, is that you're right? It's like I feel like high school is so different in a way. Like I don't think we either of us enjoyed high school. I shouldn't talk for you, but who does? Yeah. You're psychopathic too. But not to call it that one fan that did. Yeah. Not one listener that did. But it's interesting because like you're right. Like once you leave high school, like you're so like kind of alienated in the sense like, and I didn't really see you a whole lot because we gotta go to school and then go home. You know, and so like it's interesting because like we stayed in touch mostly through video games, like playing online, and it wasn't until after we had been done with college, right, and we like moved back home, that then our group that we hadn't played with online would get together in person, right? And then we'd go to your house and in your garage and we played like board games and hang out, and we had this like really good, we still do, group of like friends, just all like 12 or 13 of us all getting together, maybe it's more than that, but and just playing games together. And that's the moment, at least for me, when I was like, oh my god, I have the best group of friends right now. This is like fantastic. Yeah, certainly. It was something that like I think was so meaningful and has been such a big part of my life, like having those groups of friends, and they've like allowed me to like engage with all kinds of games, do like and like do things in the world that were really fun and that are kind of really important to me now, like go to restaurants and eat food together and like these things that like I really like to do are a core part of who I am, that like that formed around playing games with friends and playing games together, and that now being like
how I most of my best game experiences or my game moments, other than the narrative ones, are times I've played games with friends, and they become like such core memories that like are really, you know, foundational to who I am, in a really wild way that has made like these things are so impactful. They've really helped form who I am, and I think like from if we want to look at just like the narrative side of things, there are games that like emotionally were really impactful in a way that I didn't expect or think about games to being. And the one that jumps to mind is The Last of Us. Like playing The Last of Us and having that emotional experience of The Last of Us kind of made me think, and like and this has probably been said and is really cliche, but like here's a way a story game can be told through games that is impactful and emotional, and these people and characters can feel alive and interesting in a way that they had never done before. And there are other games that had pieces of it, but that game in particular was just so dark and interesting and told in such a masterful way that it was really meaningful, and like really connected with those characters and those stories, in the same way that like and there are other games that did it, like Red Dead Redemption, that the ending of that game like destroyed me because it was so emotional and impactful, and you cared so much about this character, and you wanted so much this character who had made some mistakes in his life to like be forgiven for those mistakes.
Right.
But like it is really a story about like family trauma and how those mistakes follow you in a way that is like really emotional and impactful, and is a narrative that again I think is really interesting and engaging, in a wild way.
For a long time, it was mostly like it wasn't so much a story of a game; it was more like the story of what the game gave to you in your life, right? Yeah. The connections that you made with people. And then as games matured, right, is when it really started to kind of touch you in that emotional level of like significance, when like games could but a game could really tell an emotional story that like gripped you and like made you feel something that in the past had never really done before. That's exactly right. So what you're saying is that like at the end of Wind Waker, spoiler alert, when Link stabs Ganon, you felt nothing. You should feel ashamed. No, I was kidding.
You're right. I felt nothing.
I will say I should do a memory card of that, because I remember as a kid. And okay, sorry,
you're fine. No, please.
It's just funny. Like I remember as a kid when that happened in Wind Waker. Again, spoiler if you didn't understand what I just said. And spoiler, Link stabs Ganon in the head at the end of Wind Waker. I remember being so angry, and that they had flooded Hyrule. I was like, what is wrong with this game? And it's funny now because like so many years later, 20-ish plus years later, it's probably the game I want to play the most right now, so badly. Because I know Nintendo has it behind a vault, and they're just waiting to release it. And I want it so bad. So anyway, going back, it's interesting. Like, and I remember, I think I even remember like talking to you about The Last of Us, like and texting you like, holy crap, this is already like way more than I was anticipating. It's like it's scary. Even talking to you like. And it's funny how that transcends even further, like to like even The Last of Us 2. Like you haven't played The Last of Us 2 yet, right?
To be honest, like I'm a little scared. Like what the emotional impact is going to be. Like I want to make sure I'm in a headspace to have that experience. And luckily I haven't had anything spoiled for me for the most part. Like I haven't had anything that has been ruined. But like I want to make sure I'm in a mental space to have that experience in a way that is as meaningful as impactful. Like. I want to take like 3 days off and then just play it over those 3 days, and then just be able to be like destroyed and sad after, and work through that without having to like go to work and like tell a teacher that they need to like clock out because there's only 2 kids and we don't need 3 teachers right now. And what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like that just doesn't work out.
You pull your makeshift shank like from the last one out. You're like, exactly. You better clock out. Yeah. No, and that's I think what's so crazy is like how again it just transcends through. I mean, this feels a little like much, but I think people understand what we're saying. Like it transcends, right? That same conversation we had at Last of Us is probably the same ish conversation we'll have with The Last of Us 2, in the sense of like what the conversation will be like. Yes, it was a lot. Like for me, it's a game I can't go back to right now, probably for a very long time. Like one and good. You know what I mean? Like they made their $60 and I only played it once, and that's probably what it has to be right now. So, it's very, and that's what's so cool about games is like, everyone's story is so different. Like when you play the game, like, I'm very curious how you play the game. For me, I was like so stealthy. I didn't want to kill anything. But so Ryan, is there like maybe like of your list of games that you've mentioned, right? Is there one that you feel like has the most meaningful impact? The story of the game that has the most meaningful impact to you, or just not even meaningful, just the most impact, in your life?
Yeah, probably.
Why is it Borderlands 2 and all the torque sexual jokes?
I mean, the thing about Borderlands 2 is that was a game that had, for me anyway, some perfect storytelling. Like from start to finish, like the characterization, like Handsome Jack is one of my favorite characters because of how well he was written and acted and voiced, and playing through that narrative like with you, like together, was such a wonderful experience. And getting to like hear those story beats and like experience all that was so incredible. And then like getting to, like you're saying, do the torque stuff, which was hilarious and wonderful. And like I still think about like Torque yelling blowjobs in the, you know what I mean? It's incredible. Like the writing is so good. Funny. And then like even to further that Borderlands 2 experience, like Tiny Tina's Dragon Keep was like my first experience with like Dungeons and Dragons, which is now, if listeners don't know, is a really core part of my identity. I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I think a lot about Dungeons and Dragons because, and again, this is a little bit out of our lane, but like what I love about Dungeons and Dragons, especially like DMing, which is what most of my time is doing, is like I get to tell and be in control of a story. I get to help. And with other people, but in a way that I've never had in my life, or at least felt like I had like some control in a story. And there are other TTRPGs that you can do this with that are really good. Dungeons & Dragons is just what I've played the most. You can get together with a group of people you care about and who you enjoy spending time with and just tell a really fun, interesting story that could be just like silly and wild in the way that Borderlands was, or that is like meaningful and interesting, and just getting to tell those stories with people is why I love games, because you got to tell those stories, and also why I love Dungeons & Dragons. And that was my first introduction to even that idea of something, because that was the first time I'd ever engaged with media. Like for most of my life, I was like, well, I'm not going to be that nerdy. I like video games, and I like superheroes and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to get that nerdy into Dungeons & Dragons. That's like a whole other level of nerdy that I'm not even going to touch, which is silly now. But like that was like how I thought for a really long time. Borderlands 2, incredible game. Everyone should play it.
Incredible game.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope it, and I'm sure it is as good as I remember it being, and not just because like we had this experience together and shared this experience together in a really cool way that I haven't done with other games. Like we all played like Destiny together, but that game, the narrative is a hot mess. So like you don't have that same like emotional experience of playing through a whole game together. The rest of my like adult gaming life has been trying to recapture and re-experience like playing something with somebody and having such a wonderful and engaging and exciting time, and continuing to chase that. And then narratively, it was also had like really interesting characters and had like a villain who you could understand what his motivations were in some way, and like characters who made choices and engaged with the world in a really interesting way. And then with like same with like Red Dead and BioShock, both games that like flipped how I thought about games. Like BioShock being a game I played that years and years after it came out, because it looked spooky, and I'm this big old chicken man. Big old chicken man. But like going back to BioShock, like thinking about a game where you're making choices, but are you really making choices? Again, like flipped why I play games because I got to make choices. Like that's what I liked about games. I get to be. And now here's a game. Control. Yeah, and here's a game saying you're not in control. You've never been in control. Like what? What do you mean? Because for like the most of our lives, we're not really in control, right? We're just making the choices we can. So like, what an interesting way to flip how you think about the world. And I mean, that's what it was trying to do, and it was really successful in doing it. And then like a game like Red Dead, where the world was so immersive and the story was so interesting. And it was so like had some really incredible story beats, and I think Red Dead 2 hits for me stronger in some ways and not as strong in other ways, but it's still like a really solid experience. But then again, like in Red Dead, the same thing about Borderlands. Like, I will never forget, and I think we did talk about this, like riding around through the world of Red Dead together, just in a carriage, just like having the, you know what I mean, like holding up in a
all
fort.
All friends.
Yeah, just like having a wonderful time, like in this sandbox and getting to do whatever we wanted to do. Was
that also? Sorry, I mean,
no,
sorry.
go ahead.
Is this also the time? Like, is that online? Am I making this up? Where like the closer you got somebody in the world, the louder they were in your microphone.
Yeah, so exactly.
I vividly remember people looking so angry. I was like, "You suck," and like they feel like off the distance, and we would just laugh like maniacal psychopaths. But like we just had this giant carriage, people, and we just go through the forts, killing people, and go and leave. Like we didn't do anything. Like it would just be insanity, absolute insanity.
Yeah,
I don't know,
just really
such
wonderful time. Yeah, and I mean, like I played games with other people. Like when I was younger, like in high school, Halo was huge, and everyone really loved Halo.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like go to like friend sleepovers and get-togethers where everyone would just be playing Halo all night. But like for me, that wasn't something I super enjoyed in the same way. Like I think for a game to draw me in, it either has to do a couple things. It either has to have a really strong narrative hook, it has to have a really interesting world, which then ties into that narrative hook, or it has to give me like creative freedom to design something or to build something. I think there's like this I could also stop rambling anytime. I think there's like this thing you can take, like a video game personality quiz thing. Personality quizzes are not super useful, and maybe you shouldn't use to make decisions about your life. or you shouldn't. But there's this like interesting part where like, do you like the design part of games or the narrative part of games, or like there's certain things, and I think design is something that I never saw myself as a creative person. I'm not particularly much of an artist. I'm not particularly like a good like I art is something I enjoy, but I've never seen myself as somebody who is particularly artistic. But in video games and being able to design things and create things and build things, it's something that as I've gotten older, I've came to really enjoy and appreciate. And now in my life, like, and we've talked about this even with writing scripts, like, things have to be a certain way for me to feel satisfied. And if they aren't, I sometimes struggle with it. And it's the same in games. Like, in Calls of the Lamb, I spent so much time, like, making sure my paths were lined up, making sure, like, I had totems in the right places. Like, I spent a lot of time designing that because that feels satisfying and interesting to me. And that's something that I just never really engaged with when I was younger. That I really enjoy now, but that meandered real far from the question you asked. Two different ways.
I don't know. I think it's just so interesting, like how games can bring out the most. Like I would totally agree with you, Ryan, because like the last time, it's been a while since I played, but when I played V Rising, and my crappy internet allowed me to see the castle that you and Dave had built. It was magnificent, right? Symmetrical and beautiful, and like. So I could totally see where you get that love of like design from. I think it totally comes out in that way, which again, video games is that medium that allows you to do that.
Yeah.
Which is so cool, which then crafts that story. Which I love the idea that like the stories of video games don't have to be the actual video game stories. It's the stories that, it's gonna sound so lame, that you create from playing the games. You know what I mean? Like that's also in itself an important story. So I don't know, I think it's great. And it then comes back to even further, if you feel like this is correct for you, at least like to the creation of tales, where you actually tell the stories, like, and how like impactful those are. Like you bringing so much to the table, like, you know, I never even heard of, right? And how by the end of that story, I was so moved by it, right? Because you had been so like it touched you in some way that you brought it to the table, and then I was like blown away by this game I never even heard about. Like it's crazy how. It's just wild. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like movies and TVs have such great stories as well, but I feel like video games are different in a way where like you are experiencing it in a lens that is so you.
Because it's your story, right? You're not watching somebody else's story. You're living that story. And I think, at least for me, and maybe for you as well, like that feels more impactful than watching that story, being able to experience it and then have it happen to you. And then again, video games lend themselves to, like you said, they provide a space where you can tell your own story. And again, that all goes back to like that being able to have some control in the world in a world where most people don't have a lot of control in what's going on is really meaningful, I think, for a lot of folks.
And I don't know if you have any experience with this game or not, Ryan, but like think about Little Big Planet as well, and how a game like that was just so, it went like just so wild with the stories that are being crafted in this like very like, you know, not difficult game to craft with, but at the same time, like, you know, it had its limitations, but people did amazing things with it. Like, it's just, I think it's just such a cool thing that video games allow you, even, and like, video games allow you to craft these stories in a way that like everybody can experience it without the limitations of, you know, like, you know, film studios or big, you know, but big budget TVs, or, you know, you can create these stories and share them through different medium that everybody has access to, that can be enjoyed with, because it's not all about the money at the end of the day. It's about like the experiences and what you can share with other people. So
yeah, I mean, I could do a whole nother episode on why D&D is meaningful and has like allowed me to have like some really interesting, creative and personal like stories told, because D&D can be such a personal thing. You can create a character, and we don't have to go too far on this, but like you can create a character who's had some experience that you personally have had, and then get to play them out in a way that you will never get to, or get to be put in situations that you would never get to, or face some of those fears and face some of those anxieties that you may never get to, because the world just isn't, you know, things don't always end easy like that, in a way that when you're telling a story with friends and you know what's important to them, you can help them experience that. Like if somebody lost somebody and get to tell them they love them, like you can create a world in which they get to say goodbye to someone they love where they didn't in the real world, and that can be really meaningful to people. And like getting to be a part of that is really wonderful, and getting to kind of live in another world is really fun. And again, that design part of me that I didn't know was there until I got to experience it through video games gets to come out. I get to like create these set pieces, and I get to create these narratives, and I get to like have these structures that I think are satisfying to me and hopefully to others.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, I appreciate you sharing your perspective on games, on the stories of games, which ones really were meaningful to you. I don't know, I think it's really cool. It's great how just games like just bring about different things for different people. And I think for you, like it brought about so much in different ways, right? Like it's really cool. So is there anything you want to end off on your special memory card episode by saying? I don't know if like, there's a good end note.
Well, I've rambled a lot. I'll just close out with like, I think the reason I agreed to, you know, join in this adventure with Tales with you, and the reason that this has become such a big part of our lives, and that we, you know, even though life is stressful and even though like it's wild, we've still tried to our best to find time to make sure we're still doing this, is because we both know how meaningful and important video games have been to us. And we want other people to share that, because I think as more people share that, we're able to connect with them on that thing. And, you know, they're able to hear, you know, better understand them and better understand the world. I mean, like doing these memory cards, talking with you and talking with Haney, it's helped me better understand you guys as people and as humans, and how you move through the world because of your relationship with video games, because we have that same shared language. So I think like we just have to keep doing that, because I think it's something that's really important to both of us. And I hope everybody else will feel free to share and tell us more. And as we bring more people on, they can do the same.
Storygoers, hopefully you found something meaningful in Ryan's story as well. We'd love to hear those thoughts, feelings, and perspectives if you share this with us at talesfromthecartridge@gmail.com. All of the E's are threes. Send those in. We'll be happy to read those as well. You know, any of those games that Ryan brought up meaningful to you in the same way or in a different way, we'd love to hear it. Ryan, thanks for sharing all that. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here and listening and asking some great questions, and like really good to do this with somebody who's such an important part of this story. So it's great to have you here.
Same, 100% same. I would never have asked anybody else. You know, 2 years now. Well, in just about 2 years.
Yeah.
15 days.
Yeah, that's right.
So it'll be we were working. I think we were probably working on BioShock.
We were
already
feverishly writing like
Borderlands.
5 whole episodes.
Yeah. It was wild.
Yeah.
It was a good time. But no, it's been a blast, and I think that we'll just keep making stories, and whether we experience them or they experience us. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but you know what I mean. So, Storygoers, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Tales from the Cartridge Memory Card. We hope you're doing well. Share those thoughts, feelings, or perspectives. And if you have it in your kind, beautiful hearts to rate us 5 stars on whatever platform you so listen to us, that we would really appreciate that. If you have anything less than 5 stars, just don't worry about it. You're good. You're doing great jobs. Okay.
Move on.
Storygoers, move on. We're good. Thanks so much. But we hope everyone's doing well, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.